it's Jananie and welcome back to my channel. This story ain't over. Today I'm really excited to go through another TBR-ish video, and this is to let you know all the books on my digital TBR. So for those of you who are new to book videos, TBR means to be read. So I don't know about you guys, but I feel like for me personally, although I have a lot of physical books, a lot of which I still need to read, I find myself also reading digitally, whether it's through an audiobook or through an ebook. I often listen to audiobooks on my phone and I read ebooks on my e-reader. I feel like reading through ebooks and audiobooks adds a level of convenience to your life and also is more accessible for a lot of people. What I love about ebooks is that I don't have to carry around a bunch of books, especially when I'm on the go or if I'm on like the train to work back when I used to commute. And it's also more convenient for like reading in bed because you can just like lie down with your e-reader and that sort of thing. So I actually have a Kobo e-reader. I have two actually. I have the Kobo Clara HD, and then I also have the Kobo Sage, which is just slightly bigger and it's got buttons on the side. But over the years, I have accumulated quite a few books on my digital TBR. I feel like this video will give you a nice sense of books that I want to try out and that I've heard some great things about, so I want to check out, but they're not necessarily ones that I've like bitten the bullet to buy the physical copy or like want them as part of my physical collection. Okay, so I'm going to be going through my digital TBR on my Kobo Sage, and this has all of my ebooks that I own, and I'm going to be going through all the ones that I haven't read yet and also the ones that I don't own a physical book of, just because I want to keep things a little bit fresh and not tell you about the same books that I've already mentioned in other videos. I will say with this video, I don't know too much about a lot of these books. A lot of these are ones that I decided to pick up because I had heard good things about them or they seemed vaguely interesting. So a lot of these are ones that I don't plan to go into knowing a whole ton about the plot. I think the point of me doing this video is that I'm hoping you guys will see what I'm thinking of potentially reading, and then you'll let me know which are your favorites and which you think are really great and which you think I should be picking up ASAP. And also letting me know if any of these books are like utter trash and if I shouldn't, waste my time on them. You will also notice with this list of books that I honestly don't even remember why I grabbed some of these books. Some of them I just grabbed because they were on like a daily deal at Kobo, so just keep that in mind when you're watching this. So the first book that I have is The Seven Moons of Mali Almeida, which is by Shahan Karunatikala. And this one I actually heard from another YouTuber, another booktuber named Saint Reads, and she is actually a South Asian booktuber. And I actually met her through Kayla from Books and Lala because we were both co-hosts for the Literally Dead book club. But she basically recommended this book because it is set in Sri Lanka and it follows Sri Lankan protagonists, and it's by an author who is Sri Lankan, which was really exciting for me because my parents are from Sri Lanka. So this one, honestly, I just purchased the ebook right away because I was like, I really want to read this. And this was also, as far as I know, the winner of the Booker Prize. The next book that I have is You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty, and this is by Akweke Emezi. This author has written quite a few other books, and as far as I know, this is a romance. I don't know too much about it other than that. I know it deals with the theme of grief, and honestly, I've just seen this cover around everywhere. I know so many people were excited about this book when it came out, so I'm really excited to pick it up. I know this one is an adult romance, but I believe the author has written quite a few YA books as well. Next up, I have Middle Game by Shannon Maguire. This is one that I didn't want to buy the physical copy because I didn't think I could commit to it, but I was like, I'm vaguely interested to see if I would like this, so that's why I picked up the ebook. And this one I've heard so much about from Michaela from Books and Lala, whose channel is one that I watch all the time, and I just love hearing her recommendations, but I know she loves this book, so I want to see if I would enjoy this one. I believe it's a bit of a like horror fantasy. Next, I have The Echo Wife by Sarah Gailey. This one I honestly don't know too much about. I feel like it deals with something like doppelgangers or like some sort of sci-fi fantasy element where there's like two of the same person, I think. But the main reason I picked this one up was because I actually own Just Like Home, which is also by this author, which is like a horror novel that I picked up for spooky season in the physical format. But I heard she had written like quite a few other books, so I went searching for them, and this one came up as like one that a lot of people liked. So I was like, you know what, let me try it, but I'll just grab the ebook. Now, since we're on the subject of electronic devices and sort of digital things, I did want to talk a little bit about the sponsor of today's video, video, which is Casetify. Casetify is the world's most popular tech accessory brand. You've probably heard of them before. They're known for their protective phone cases, and they're also known for a lot of their global collaborations. Casetify is also running their Black Friday sale right now, and let me tell you, it's a great deal. I'll talk about that in a little bit. So Casetify was kind enough to send me 4 of their wonderful cases, and those of you who have thought that Casetify is only for iPhones, let me tell you, you are wrong, because I thought the same thing. They do cases for Androids. I am a huge Android user, and I have the Google Pixel 6. Casetify's cases are super cute, and they're also super thin. Their impact case can withstand up to 109 drops, which is 4 times the military standard, while still maintaining its sleekness. What I love is that with their new EcoShock impact absorption technology, the cases can withstand up to 8.2 feet drops, which is a really high height and is so convenient for me as someone who is constantly dropping their phone. I have literal butterfingers and I need a case that will protect my phone. Another thing I love about Casetify is that they're really trendy and customizable. They have over 2,000 prints to choose from, curated by their global network of artists, or you can customize your own. So I'm going to show you the cases that I got. I got this really cute sky themed one, which says, "For the good days ahead, for the good days ahead," which I think is such a nice saying. So I thought it'd be a really positive thing for me to have on my phone. The next one that I got is staying on this positive theme, and it's a clear case with these cute white flowers, and it says, "You deserve a good day." And then I also got this cute like brown black case that says, "You deserve every good thing this world has to offer and nothing less." And finally, I also got a customized case, which is just this really nice, simple black case with my name on it. And I love that I got to get it in this like really cute purple color. Another thing I love about Casetify is that they have really cute and functional accessories. They have phone straps and phone charms. So Casetify sent me this blue phone strap, which goes so nicely with this blue case. And honestly, this is the thing that I needed in my life because I'm constantly losing my phone and trying to figure out where it is. So if I had a way to just like have it on my body at all times, I think that would be really convenient. Putting on the accessory is really easy. You have this little tab here, and then you hook on the strap, and then you stick your phone inside, and voila. Now with that said, I did mention Casetify's Black Friday sale, so if you grab the impact case and a phone strap, you can get 25% off your order. That's a really great deal, and you can save up to $28.50, which is super awesome, so you should definitely go check out that deal. Another thing I love about Casetify is their work towards sustainability. Each of their cases is 65% recycled, and up to date, they've recycled 51,000 cases. With all this said, I definitely think you guys should check out Casetify. I absolutely love these cases, and whether you're an Android user or an iPhone user, there is a case out there for you on Casetify. And as I said before, the Black Friday sale is buy 2, get 25% off, which applies to the impact case and the phone straps. But I do also have my own personal discount for all of you here today. So if you click the link in my description, you can actually get 15% off your entire order. I'm so excited for my new phone cases and how wonderful they're gonna look. So thank you so much to Casetify for sponsoring this video, and now let's get back into my digital TBR. Next up I have Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. I can never say her name. And I also have Harold the Ninth, which is the second book in that series. I don't have the third one, but I grabbed these first 2 on the ebook because I know the next one is coming out, I think. Nona the Ninth, I want to say that's what it's called. But basically, I've heard so much about this series. It's an adult fantasy series, a bit of horror elements. And honestly, I know a lot of people are huge fans of this series. So I was like, maybe I'll check it out, but I don't think I will necessarily love it. So that's why I didn't want to bite the bullet and grab a physical right away. I'm going to see if I like it on the ebook. And then if I do, I'll end up getting a physical copy. Next, I have The Bromance Book Club by Lissa K. Adams. This one is one where I've heard so many great things about it. I believe it's a romance. All I know is that it involves a book club and some boys and a romance, and that's about it. I know this is a very vague description, but I've heard so many people tell me that this one is great. But again, I don't really read a lot of romances that often, and I'm often not as invested in them as I am in other genres. So I feel like picking it up in an ebook is usually better for me when it comes to a romance, because like I can see if I like it and if I enjoy it. And usually it's also easier to like rip through a book on an e-reader. At least that's what I find personally. So yeah. Next up I have Miracle Creek by Angie Kim. I believe this one came out a few years ago, and I don't honestly know too much about it, but I do know that it's a literary fiction and that a lot of people love this one, so that's why I was intrigued. It's by an Asian author, and that's about all I know, but I know it seemed like a lot of people loved it whenever I saw it around like Bookstagram, so that's kind of why I picked it up on the ebook, because I didn't know too much about it, but I thought it might be good. Next I have Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield. Again, don't know anything about this one. Some part of me wants to say it has a sci-fi fantasy element to it, but it's also a literary fiction. I know it's queer, and that's about all I know. But the reason I picked this one up, again, was because I had seen it like online everywhere, mostly on Bookstagram and Book Talk. And I was like, I wanna read this. Like, it seems like a lot of people love it, so I wanted to see what the hype was about. Next, I have The Woman in Cabin 10 by Ruth Ware. I know Ruth Ware is a really popular thriller author, and this book in particular was super popular. I remember seeing it all around the bookstore when I used to work at Chapters Indigo, so I feel like some part of the subliminal messaging of seeing it on the tables all the time got to me at some point, so I picked this one up on ebook. But again, I don't actually read all that many thrillers, so I do at some point want to do like a whole thriller binge, but again, since they're not like my favorite genre, I don't feel the need to like invest the money in buying the physical ones. So I think I bought this on like an ebook deal, and I was like, maybe one day I'll binge read Ruth Ware books. Next I have Magic for Liars by Sarah Gailey again. This is another one of her books. I mentioned her other one, The Echo Wife, earlier. This one, again, I don't know too much about, but it is a sci-fi fantasy, I believe. And this one, I think, is the one I've heard more great things about than the other one. Next, I have The Mothers by Britt Bennett. And this one I'm so excited for. Again, I don't know anything about this one, but I know it's the author of The Vanishing Half, which was a book that I read this year and absolutely fell in love with. So that's why I was like, I need to read this author's other books because I need more. Like, The Vanishing Half was so amazing. So I'm hoping that this one is just as amazing. For those of you who don't know, The Vanishing Half is like this really deeply emotional literary fiction, and it involves a lot of topics of like race and history and sexuality as well, and I just absolutely loved it. So I'm hoping that this book at least explores a lot of the same themes. Next I have My Sister the Serial Killer by Oyinkan Braithwaite, and this one I have been seeing all over Book Talk, and I know it's a bit of a thriller, but I've also seen it recommended as sort of like a hot sad girl book or like a unhinged woman book, and that just has me intrigued. So I was like, I need to read this. It's obviously by a Black author as well, so I'm excited to potentially check it out. Next up I have What Strange Paradise by Omar El Akkad. This one I honestly don't remember what it's about or why I got it. I think I got it on like a daily deal. I do believe it's like some sort of award winner, so that's probably why I picked it up, but yeah, I know next to nothing about it. Next I have The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead. This is the author of The Underground Railroad and another book that recently came out. And I know The Underground Railroad was a Pulitzer Prize winner, I think, or some sort of award winner. So I was like, oh, his other books must be great. And I saw this one on an ebook deal, so that's why I grabbed it. Next I have Transcendent Kingdom by Ya Gyazi. This is one that I definitely picked up because of Bookstagram. I had seen this book all over there, and it was honestly just one of those like really popular literary fictions. I believe it's a generational story. It is by a Black author, I believe. And overall, it just seemed like it might be a really impactful and deep read. So I think at some point I might pick this one up, but I didn't feel the need to grab a physical. The next one is one that I'm so intrigued by, but I honestly don't know too much about it. So it's called Mrs. Death, Mrs. Death. And it's by Selena Godin, and this one I picked up because I saw Kayla from Books and Lala mention it on her channel, and she's really into like speculative fiction and horror, and I love all of that stuff. And this one is also in that field of genres, and I don't know what it is about this book, but even though I didn't know anything about it, the title itself is what gripped me, and also the cover. I really like the cover. So overall, I'm intrigued. I really want to check it out, but I did remember seeing like not so great Goodreads reviews, so that's why I was like, maybe I shouldn't spend the, $40 on a hardcover, and so I decided to grab the ebook instead. Next I have The Water Dancer by Ta-Nehisi Coates, and this one I know is a literary fiction. I think it might have some speculative elements to it, but I might be wrong. I just remember this one being really popular at the time it came out, and one that was like a really impactful read for a lot of people. I believe this author also has like a nonfiction title. I forget what it's called, but I remember people talking about that one as well. With a lot of these books, I feel like I end up picking them up because I've just heard great buzz about these books, and so I'm like, maybe I'll check it out at some point. Next, I have Arsenic and Adobo by Mia P. Manansala. This one I was really excited for because it was one of the book club picks for the Subtle Asian Book Club, which is run by a couple of my friends, and they're lovely people, and they read all Asian books, and that includes like Southeast Asian and South Asian and East Asian and all of that. And so this is one of the books that they had picked, and I know this one is like a bit of a cozy mystery, kind of like Dial A for Aunties from what I've heard. And so it just seemed like it was gonna be really fun and had some really nice representation. So I'm excited to pick this one up at some point. I think it'll be a fun one to just like curl up with in the winter. Next, I have Midnight at Malabar House by Vaseem Khan. This one I honestly don't remember too much about, but I remember one of my coworkers had mentioned that they read this one like over a weekend or something and thought it was fantastic. It is by a South Asian author, I believe, so I'm excited to check it out, but I honestly don't know too much about it. It is a mystery though, I believe. Next, I have Cleopatra and Frankenstein by Coco Mellers, and this one I've seen all over TikTok and Book Talk. I picked this one up on the ebook because I was planning to put it in my Hot Sad Girl books video, but I didn't end up getting around to it. So it's still on my list, but yeah, it's like definitely of that hot sad girl genre. It reminds me a lot of Conversations with Friends, at least from what I've heard of the plot of this book. I think it involves an affair or something like that, and just like the mental state of these characters. So I'm interested to see if I'm gonna like it. Next, I have Stuck With You by Ali Hazelwood. I believe this one is a novella by the author, and this is the author of The Love Hypothesis, which is like her really popular debut novel, which was like so popular on TikTok. I absolutely love that book, so that's why I grabbed her novella, Stuck With You. Again, I don't know too much about this one. I think it, again, involves like characters who are in the STEM field, and it's a romance, but not too sure. And then I also have one of her other ebooks, which is Under One Roof. And again, I don't know too much about this one, but I was like, if I ever feel like I want a romance and like a short one that's a novella, then I can pick one of these ones up. Next, I have The Cactus by Sarah Haywood. This one I honestly distinctly remember grabbing because it was on an ebook deal, but I also grabbed it because it's a Reese Witherspoon book club pick, and I honestly have really liked a lot of those book club picks, so that's why I was like, oh, if it's on a sale, I'll grab it, maybe I'll read it sometime. So that's kind of why I got it. I love how a lot of these I'm like, oh yeah, I just got it because it was on a deal and I'll like maybe read it. But then I also have like a bajillion physical books that I also need to read. So like, when will I actually get to these books? I don't know. We'll see. Next, I have Incense and Sensibility. This is the third book in the Rajas series by Sonali Dave. These are all books that I think are companions to each other. So that's why I grabbed, I think, the second and third one. I don't even remember, but they were on an ebook deal. So I was like, yes, let me grab them. This one is a retelling of Sense and Sensibility, but with South Asian main characters, which has me very excited. And then I think I grabbed one of her other ones, but I'll see if it comes up later in the list. Next, I have The Ivory Key by Akshaya Raman. This one is a YA fantasy by a South Asian author. And that's literally the reason why I grabbed it, because it was by a South Asian author. And I'm just all about supporting other South Asians and like seeing more of our representation. And I didn't know that I was going to love it a lot just because it is a YA fantasy and I haven't been really liking YAs that often. So that's why I grabbed it on the ebook, but I have heard from some friends who read this one that they really, really enjoyed it. So I think I'm probably gonna like it, so I'll probably get to that sometime soon. Next, I have A Man Called Uwe. I honestly don't know how to say it. I know this one had an adaptation that came out recently. It's by Frederick Bachman, and this is also the author of another book that I read, Anxious People, I think that's what it's called. And this is the one of his books that's like really, really popular. This is a translated fiction also. And honestly, I don't know too much about the plot of this one, but I just know that it's like super popular and a lot of people fell in love with it when it like first came out quite a few years ago. So I was like, oh, I kind of want to see what the hype is about. So that's why I grabbed it on ebook, because I can like just check it out and see. I'm not sure that I'll love it because although I liked Anxious People, I didn't like love it. It was like an alright book to me, so we'll see if I like this one. Next, I have The Worst Best Man by Mia Souza. This one I just picked up because it's a romance. It was on a deal and I'd heard quite a few people say that they enjoyed it, so I was like, yeah, this is the perfect type of book to like have on my e-reader when I'm on like vacation or I just want to pick up something like cute and fun. So that's why I have it. Next I have The Alice Network by Kate Quinn. This is another one that was a Reese Witherspoon book club pick. I believe it's a historical fiction set in one of the world wars. I'm pretty sure I got it when it was on an ebook deal and I just thought, oh, maybe I'll read this and enjoy it because it's a Reese Witherspoon book club pick. So yeah. The next one is one that I keep hearing so many things about, and that's Finley Donovan is Killing It, and it's by Elle Cosimano. This one is part of a series and they're all like cozy mysteries following this main character named Finley Donovan. I honestly don't know anything about the plot, but I've just heard that they're like cozy mysteries and that a lot of people really enjoyed them. So yeah, that's why I grabbed it. So hopefully I can pick it up sometime soon and see what it's about. And if I like it, I feel like I really want to try out the cozy mystery genre, but I'm not necessarily sure I'm gonna love it. Next I have Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. This is by a Canadian author, I want to say, I think. And it's a romance, and from what I know, it's like a friends to lovers situation, and it's set over multiple years. And honestly, I picked this one up because the concept seemed interesting, and I had heard a lot of people talk about it in the summer when it came out. So I was like, yeah, this might be a fun summer read. And then I never got around to reading it, but hopefully soon. Next I have The House Across the Lake by Riley Sagar. This one I know is a thriller, and I know Riley Sagar is like a pretty popular thriller author. He's written quite a few different ones, and I know his books are either really well beloved or really hated by some people depending on which book it is. So I'm intrigued. I definitely want to get into his books and see if I enjoy them as thrillers, but again, I don't read thrillers all that often, so I don't feel the need to like invest the money in them. So that's why I grabbed this one on ebook, and I'll probably grab some of his other ones as well and like try to binge them and see. Next I have The Idiot by Alif Batuman. This is another hot sad girl book that I saw all over Book Talk, and I was going to include it in that hot sad girl video that I did, but I didn't end up having the time to include it. But I do want to pick it up at some point because it's just been hyped a lot on Book Talk and I just want to see what the hype is about. Next I have After I Do by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is one of her romances, one of her early romances, and I know she's a super popular author. I have read, I think, 2 of her more backlist books, and I do want to read more of the backlist ones. I'm not so much interested in some of her new ones because I feel like I'm not completely vibing with them, especially after Malibu Rising. So I'm interested to see if I'll enjoy this one, but I did grab this ebook like quite a long time ago. Next I have Tales from the Cafe by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. This is, I believe, the second book in the Before the Coffee Gets Cold series. So Before the Coffee Gets Cold I actually own the physical book for, and it's basically this concept where in this cafe there's like this seat, and if you sit in that seat you can travel back in time, but the caveat is that you have to stay in the seat, so you can only interact with people that are in the cafe. And so it creates this interesting situation where people are going back in time and like having these weird experiences and, you know, getting to see people that they have lost or, you know, used to be with, that kind of thing. And I haven't yet read the first one, but I was like, this seems really cool, and I probably will end up reading the second one. And then the second one went on sale on ebook, so I was like, yeah, let me buy it. Next I have Exciting Times by Nais Dolan. This one is a literary fiction. I believe it's of the hot sad girl variety, unhinged woman variety. Don't really know too much about it, but I got it for that video. Never ended up doing more books on that video, so that's why I have it. Next I have Winter in Sokja by Elise Shao Duaspin and Anissa Abbas Higgins. I believe one of those is the translator, I'm not sure. This one was nominated for a National Book Award, I think. It is by a Korean author, I believe, and set in Korea. And I found out about this one, I think from Chloe, whose channel renamed to Chloe Bunny, and I absolutely love her videos. So I think she mentioned this one and I was like, yeah, let me check it out. I don't know too much about it, but I believe it's like a literary fiction, so I'm excited to check it out. Next I have A Master of Jinn by P. Djeli Clark. I know it involves jinns, and it's a fantasy, it's an adult fantasy, and I've heard quite a few good things about it, but not like so many things. Like I know that it's not a super popular series, but I've heard like good things about it regardless. So I'm interested to see if I'll enjoy it. Next I have Fungi by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. I believe this is a collection of stories edited by her. I'm not quite certain, but I just ended up buying a bunch of ebooks of her other works that weren't necessarily available in print. So this was one of them. So with that, I also have New Suns, which is this collection of speculative stories by different authors, and Sylvia Moreno Garcia is one of them. And then I've also got one of her other novels, which is Prime Meridian, and this one's more of a sci-fi, I think. I've also got Return of the Sorceress, which is another one of her novels or novellas, and it's a fantasy. And then with that, I think I started researching like other people of color science fiction fantasy writers, and I came across this collection called the Gollancz Book of South Asian Science Fiction, which I thought was super cool. It's by Tarun Saint and Manjula Padmanabhan. Those are the two authors listed in like the collection view of my e-reader. I think one of them's the editor or both of them are the editor, but basically it's like a collection of science fiction stories by South Asian authors, which I was like, yes, give it to me now. I absolutely love short stories in sci-fi fantasy, and just the fact that these are all by South Asian authors has me really excited. And then with that, I also grabbed another anthology of science fiction fantasy stories, and this one's just generally Asian stories, so also like East Asian and Southeast Asian, and it's called Where the Stars Rise. And Fonda Lee, who is the author of Jade War, I believe, is also one of the contributing authors to this collection. Next, I have The Midnight Bargain by C.L. Polk. I think this one came out a couple years ago. It is a slightly speculative fiction, but also historical, I want to say. I've heard some good things about it, but mostly like mixed-ish things. So I remember seeing it in the bookstore and thinking the cover was so beautiful, and I wanted to buy it on the spot, but then I was like, maybe I should wait and see, especially after the reviews were kind of like mixed-ish. So that's why I didn't end up buying it, but I got it on the ebook instead because it was cheaper. Next, I have Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. This one is a YA fantasy that I know so many people were in love with a few years ago and like were raving about it, and honestly, it didn't seem like it would be my cup of tea, which is why I didn't pick it up at the time. But I know so many people that I trust. Like I think Elias and Hannah from A Clockwork Reader really enjoyed this one, and so I was like, maybe I should check it out, but I didn't want to commit to buying the physical book because I honestly didn't think I would enjoy it that much, so that's why I grabbed the ebook in case I wanted to pick it up. Next, I have one of the first ebooks I ever bought, which is Kushiel's Dart by Jacqueline Carey. I think I grabbed this one way back when I was into Sarah J. Maas books, and I remember her mentioning that this was one of her influences, and she liked that the character used her sexuality as like a weapon, which is definitely something that I think is a theme that shows up in Sarah J. Maas's books, regardless of whether I like them or not, which I don't really. So I thought that was an interesting idea, and I remember being like, ooh, I want to read this, but I remember it being like a really thick book, and I was like, I really don't want to cart around that book, so that's why I got the ebook, because I was like, it's, you know, weightless, so I can just read it whenever I want. So that's why I got it. To this day, I haven't read it yet, but I do want to pick it up at some point because I'm still intrigued by the concept, and it's a really old book. I think it's from the 90s, I want to say, so I'm interested to see what I'll think of it. Alrighty, we're on to the last two books. So the second last book I have is Aisha at Last by Uzma Jalaluddin. This is also one of the first ebooks that I got, and it is by a Canadian Muslim author. And from what I heard, it's just a really cute Muslim romance, like between two Muslim people, and like is very accurate to that representation from what I've heard. And I believe it's also set in Canada, which has me really intrigued. So yeah, I do want to read it at some point, but it is like a romance, so like I'm not super keen on picking it up, but when I do, I'm excited to check it out. And I know my sister also read this one, and she said she really loved it. She thought it was so wholesome, so I'm excited to check it out. The final book that I have on my e-reader is Slayer by Kiersten White. So Kiersten White is the author of multiple YA books, none of which I've read, but I found out that this book was coming out called Slayer, and it's based off of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and it basically follows like a new Slayer in the lineage. And I was like, oh my god, I need this in my life, I need to read it. So I immediately bought it on ebook because I think I didn't want to spend the money on like the physical book or something, or like it was on an ebook deal or whatever. And I grabbed it, and then I started reading it, and I couldn't get into it. And then I had heard like sort of mixed-ish opinions online in reviews about the book. So I was like, oh, okay, maybe I won't end up liking this as much as I was like excited for it. So we'll see. I might end up still trying to pick it up because I'm intrigued by the concept, but I'm not sure that it'll be anytime soon. Alrighty, with that said, those are actually all of the books on my digital TBR. This is actually really fun to just go through my e-reader and see what ebooks I had, and honestly assess which of these books were just ones that I bought on ebook deals because it's just so tempting, and which ones were ones that I was like unsure of and I just like grabbed the ebook so that I could have the option to read them, but I didn't necessarily feel committed to picking them up. So I think it's an interesting concept, and it sort of speaks to how I use my e-reader. But I did want to say that although this is like my TBR, there are a lot of books that like are on my TBR but that I end up grabbing through the library, because Kobo e-readers, you can like download library books or borrow library books directly from your e-reader, so it makes it really easy. So there's definitely a lot of those that I've like read and loved on my e-reader from the library. With all that said, I hope you enjoyed this video. Definitely please let me know if you have read any of these books or what you thought of them, and if I should pick any of them up soon, because I think that's a huge deciding factor for a lot of these for me. And I would love to hear if any of you got some like new recommendations from this video, because I feel like a lot of these books are ones that I've like never even mentioned before. So I'd be curious to see if you were like, oh yeah, this seems like right up my alley. As always, I love hearing your comments and reading your thoughts, so definitely leave them down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and definitely go check out Casetify and the Black Friday sale, and also the discount down below in my description. And if you want to get regular updates on my reading and life, go check out my Instagram, Twitter, Goodreads, and TikTok in the description down below. As always, I will see you in my next video, so please remember that this story ain't over. Bye!